I'm Bridget Owens, and you're listening to the Waxing Soul podcast. Join me on an exploration of mindful modern magic, a journey towards deeper understanding of self and transformative individual spirituality. It's October 29th, 2020, and on today's episode, we'll be discussing the importance of digging into your deepest intentions, why we are so good at desires but so bad at intentions, and the 3 questions to ask to get down to the root of what you really want. Are you ready to grow your soul? Let's do this. Thank you so much for joining me here on the inaugural episode of the Waxing Soul podcast. This is a project that I've been contemplating for a large portion of 2020, and I'm super excited to finally be bringing you episodes. So for those of you who don't know me in real life, I am just one of those people who is constantly thinking and writing and exploring spiritual topics for my own projects, for the pagan meetup group I run locally, and just because it's a thing that's frequently on my mind. So after thinking about this for, all these months, I decided to start at a topic that's going to come up again and again in lots of different capacities through this whole little audio adventure we're embarking on, and that's intention. So there are lots of resources that speak to the idea that, we have to be clear in our intention to successfully manifest our desires or to get results from our magical practices. But the vast majority talk about how to fix that intention clearly and strongly in your mind. But what I want to talk about today is the intention itself, because we as human beings are just not good at understanding what we really want. And when it comes to putting our own minds and energies to bringing something to fruition in a purposeful way, we totally, absolutely suck at putting that target on the right things. So the best examples of how bad we are at this for me come from when I read tarot cards, or I used to read tarot cards in a local metaphysical shop. And if I had a nickel for every time somebody wanted, reassurance that something would happen for them the way they wanted it to, but the cards kept telling them that they were focusing on the wrong thing, or that there was some other thing open to them that was better than what they had envisioned, and they just kept clinging to that original desire, if I had a nickel for every time that happened, I could definitely buy myself a latte. So, we just aren't good at intentions. We're good at desires. But there is a difference. And also, we think we're good at problem solving, and there's a difference there as well. So intention is hard for us, and it's because it takes digging deep and asking hard questions of ourselves, which is totally not what beginners in the world of manifestation want to hear or face, but it's where we are. And let's be real, it impacts in mundane life too, right? When I finished college, I had this drive to achieve certain things, career and income-wise, because I envisioned the kind of life I wanted to have. I envisioned the kind of place I wanted to live and the kind of crowd I wanted to run with and the types of things I wanted to do, like, throw dinner parties and travel with friends. And I wanted those things. So I wanted to be a certain kind of successful and make a certain amount of money. And I tied those 2 things, career success and lifestyle, very tightly together. So while I would have said that my intention was to, succeed at my career, that wasn't really my core intention at all. And at the core of it all wasn't even the desire for a certain material lifestyle. What I really wanted was what I thought that lifestyle would make me feel. I wanted to have a group of friends to do things with. I wanted to feel liked and appreciated and like I fit in with the people I wanted to hang out with. And that was my core intention. That's what I really wanted. And what I thought would get me there was just actually one of a zillion ways to get that feeling of acceptance. And we'll explore the issue of all those possible ways to get to a goal in another episode. But now, some of this realization that I was chasing that wrong intention Now that happened a long time ago before I really started digging into the idea that, in magical or spiritual terms. But even then, what I realized was that I was going about everything the long and complicated way, and I was getting in my own way. I realized this when I realized that chasing what I thought was the intention wasn't actually making me happy. It wasn't making me feel any closer to my goal. Quite the opposite, actually. And it felt like a huge epiphany when I realized that, if what I wanted was to have a group of cool friends to throw dinner parties and go on trips with, I didn't have to make a lot of money and achieve things to get that. All I needed to do was make friends, throw dinner parties, and arrange travel plans. So, the bar for success at that was much, much lower than I was making it out to be. And it was a huge relief to me, actually. And what has continually struck me again and again in spiritual contexts is how often people express desperate needs to get one specific thing when it's so very obvious to those around them that their needs actually go much deeper, and that the thing they're desperate for might actually even be bad for them in some way. So one of the themes that I'll just warn you now will come up again and again in future episodes is this idea that digging down to our real, deepest intentions is one of the keys to manifestation and magic and self-evolution, plus lots and lots of other things. So why are we so bad at intentions? And why is it so important to get better at it? Why am I starting at this topic? The core reason that I do what I do, the grand intention behind, all of the spiritual stuff that I put out for the community is to share my experience with other people who are looking for, some kind of direction or stable foundation on which to build a personal spirituality. Those of you who struggle to find a tradition that fits you, or who sit somewhere in between skepticism and belief, or, who are simply at the beginning of your exploration into whatever path or craft. And what I figured out along my own journey is that really the only way to find a spiritual place where you fit is to really get deeply in touch with the roots of your spiritual drive. What is it that your soul is looking for, that you're hoping to find in spirituality? And we're used to thinking of purpose or drive as something that spirituality gives us, but that's not really how it works. It's from intention, from deep within ourselves. And one of the biggest barriers to advancing towards our goals is a disconnect between what we think we want and our very deepest motivations. So, if we're searching for spiritual guidance and truth, but every time we think we found it, we become, disillusioned or dissatisfied, it's because we haven't dug deep enough to really work out what our intentions really are. And it's because we suck at cause and effect. It's why so many people chase, relationships because they think that being single is why they're unhappy, but then they're never happy in the relationships because the root of their unhappiness has nothing to do with being single. We're super prone to either taking too much responsibility for what happens to us or not enough responsibility for it. We attach ourselves to particular ways, particular steps towards what we think we want, and we close ourselves off to other alternatives, which is something we're going to talk about next week, the ways we try to micromanage the universe sometimes. But the point is that human beings, for all our technological and scientific advancement, on average, we're really bad at cause and effect. Even scientists are bad at it sometimes. We see something happen, or we imagine something we want to happen, and we think we know just intuitively how those things are caused to happen, how they're brought about. But we're wrong more than we're right. But hope is not lost when it comes to what we want to manifest. When it comes to what we want our spiritual workings to accomplish, we can get better at this. And it's super important that we get better at it. We come to spirituality because we want something, right? We want to be better. We want to do better. We want to connect deeper, understand more, feel fulfilled, have a better life in some way, something. We're looking for something. And no matter what that is, it takes some work on our part. We have to, we have stuff to work on or things to change. And it's really no different, trying to make something happen via spirituality than it is trying to make something happen, in our everyday life. Both ways, we have to have a really firm grasp on our true deep intention. It's not about thinking about what we want. It's about digging into why we want what we want. What we think will change in our lives if we get what we think we want. All of that kind of thing. And here's sort of the 3 places where it makes a difference. So first, if we're clear on our deeper intention, when things don't go the way we expect, we can keep moving forward. We can, adjust our approach and try again. We won't get stuck wanting one small thing to go our way and lose sight of the bigger goal. And, second, if we're clear on the deeper intention, we open ourselves up to notice other ways in which manifestation happens and can happen. When we tunnel vision focus on the way that we envision that things should happen, opportunities that don't look that way, that don't look the way we expect them to, can pop up and totally pass us by. So, the universe can provide all kinds of alternative paths to our deep intentions, but if we're focusing on our specific short-term ideal vision of the goal that we're trying to, the way we vision it, we're going to completely miss out on so many opportunities. And third, if we're clear on our deeper intention, we don't waste time on other stuff, the other stuff that, doesn't actually pay off the way we want it to. If all your smaller desires stem from a larger, deeper intention, you can get all of those small things and still, not feel satisfied or successful. It's frustrating, and it's the number one reason that people get disillusioned with their practices before they really master anything spiritually. So it's important to dig down and really get good at figuring out our deep intentions. But how do we go about doing that? And here's where my podcasts are going to be kind of interesting, because what I want to do is not just talk at you about stuff trying to make you think, that's all great, but a key part of a spiritual path is the practice component. So it's not just about what we believe, it's about what we do. So for every episode, there's going to be a companion resource, something little to download, some kind of quiz or assessment, something. That's my intention. And I want you to not just think about this stuff, I want you to take action on the things that really grab you. So I'm going to provide links to a resource that you can pick up for any episode that really grabs your interest. And today, it's all about how to do that deep digging into your intentions. And what we really have to do before we put our thoughts and energies and efforts into manifesting our desires is to really ask ourselves the right questions. To not just scratch the surface, but really excavate ourselves down to the soul. Over time, of course. If every time we set about doing some kind of intention work, we dig just a little bit deeper, over time we're going to get really down to some fundamental things about ourselves. You don't necessarily want to dig it all out at once if this is something that you've not done before, because then we're into serious shadow work and you can uncover some really unpleasant surprises. So it's a step-by-step thing. It's a good thing to take it slow. But it starts with asking good questions. You start from whatever you think your intention is. And as an example, I'm going to use my, the career thing I mentioned earlier. So let's say I was going to do some working to, manifest an opportunity to advance in the job I used to have. So this is old me. So the first question to ask is simply why. I want to manifest a job advancement opportunity. Why? Why do I want that? Old me would have said that because it meant more money and it got me closer to career goals. Seems straightforward and simple, right? It's not the very core reason. I'd have to keep asking why again and again to get further. And you can do that. Why do I want to make more money? Why do I want that specific career goal? But however deep you go, it's deeper than the original desire. And that's what's important. So the second question, after you've sort of pursued why, as far as you want to take that, is, what next? So, old me wanted to manifest a promotion, to make more money and move along in my career. What do I expect is going to happen after that? What's next? If I'm making more money and I'm further along in my career, I expect to be, more financially stable and able to afford maybe a nicer place to live. And I expect to, to work on more impressive projects and meet more influential people. And again, maybe you take that a few steps deeper and ultimately you look at, whether your answers are really a better intention to focus on than the original one you had in mind. And then the third question, after why and what's next, you ask, does the how really matter? And this is something I'm going to dig into really deeply next week in episode 2, but it's important to broaden your horizons here. If my real intention is, say, financial stability, does it matter to me if maybe financial stability happens in ways that I'm unable to predict? So what if I find, cool things to do and cool people to network with outside of my current career? Does that change anything? And it's important to look at that from a, are you trying to dictate how that happens? Do you have a specific plan in mind? Is your intention really the one that you should be focusing on? Or could that happen in a lot of other ways? So let's walk through it with a different starting point. So let's have some fun here. Let's say I'm wanting to dive right into questionable territory and put a hex on somebody I don't like. And I'm going to make this up as I go. So starting out with, let's say I want to put a hex on an ex. So something bad happens to them. They broke up with me. It's hex time, right? So first question, why? Why do I want that bad thing, whatever that bad thing is, to happen to them? Because I hate them and I want them to suffer? Well, why? Because I'm suffering, so they should suffer too? Or so that so what's next after that? Well, if I hex them and they suffer, then maybe they'll feel bad about breaking up with me and come back. Or maybe they'll at least feel bad and recognize that they're an awful person. So, you trace that down. And then how does that really, does the how really matter? Does whatever bad thing I want to send their way have to be the way to teach them that lesson or to win them back, whichever way I'm wanting to go? And that becomes the really important question, right? Because if you go through all of that and go, man, I just want them to learn the lesson and it really doesn't matter why, then is it important to hex them? Or is that still reasonable? Or is there something else to work on? So, there's a lot of substance in there, right? Like maybe the issue isn't the breakup, it's that I haven't let go of things. Maybe I need to deal with wanting them back. Maybe I need to deal with my anger because, when I look at those answers, I see maybe an irrational need for revenge that isn't like me. You start to uncover that stuff. So lots of things to dig through, right? So like I said, I'll dig much deeper into that third question next week. But for now, what I want to offer is a downloadable PDF, which gives you these 3 questions and plus some prompts to kind of clarify your thinking around whatever working or project is at hand. You can download that at bridgetowens.com/podcast. And use that as a template, include it in your journal, include it in your book of shadows, your personal grimoire, whatever, or just use it as a worksheet. Thank you so much for listening. Look for a new episode of Waxing Soul every Thursday. You can find us on bridgetowens.com/podcast and wherever you usually listen to podcasts. If you can't find us at your usual podcast spot, drop a message to bridget@bridgetowens.com. All materials and resources, except the music, are copyright Bridget Owens. Music is Dreamcatcher by Kevin MacLeod, used under Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International. Find out more at bridgetowens.com/podcast. Many, many thanks to my readers, listeners, friends, mentors, inspirations, and my family. None of this, of course, happens in a bubble. Until next week, blessed be and be good to yourself.